what you see. Be like a battery. I'm staying charged on my feet. I'm like a factory. Dropping lines like an assembly. I'm staying on point. My strategy.
How you doing, guys? Welcome to ZukaTube, and today we're going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This just came out May 5th, 2023. This is James Gunn's last big, I guess, hurrah in Marvel, and then he's going over to DC and doing his thing over there, which, you know, who knows how that's going to go. But, okay, so this just came out. It's pretty much this is the last time you will see the Guardians of the Galaxy basically as them. Like, either there's going to be a new team or they're going to disband or whatever. I'm not really going to spoil anything to the end of this video, but, you know, that's what they pretty much tell you in the trailer. So I'm going to read through the summary. I'm going to go through. We'll play a couple clips from the trailer. We'll talk a bit about it. I'll give you my review, and then at the end we'll do some spoilers. Before we do that, like, rumble, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Now, let me just get into it and read this summary for you. Okay. It says, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill must rally his team to defend the universe and protect one of their own. If the mission is not completely successful, it could possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know it. See, and that's pretty much the thing that I was talking about, where they might disband, they might be no more, they might be a new team, who knows. That's what they tell you in the trailer, and let's go through and let's watch this trailer and talk a little bit about it.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm
Star-Lord. I'm Star-Lord.
I formed the Guardians. Met a girl, fell in love, came back a total dick.
Oh, please.
He left out some
There's definitely
important
some good
information,
comedy.
but that is the gist of it.
Always good music in these.
My sacred mission.
This is the High
to create
Evolutionary.
the perfect society.
To show you a little
He just
raccoon
hated
origin
things the way
story.
they-
Space.
I want you all to know that I'm grateful to fight beside my friends.
A lot bigger now. He's like Giga Chad.
We're always searching for a family.
Are you ready for one last ride?
We'll all
One last
fly away
ride here.
together
Into the forever,
That's like bad stuff's gonna happen, right? Look at that space
beautiful
bubble.
sky.
There's a lot of bodies.
Whoever it was that you were in love with, it sounds more like her.
Her? That's ridiculous.
Do not bring me into this.
Knock it off!
What?
Just never noticed how black your eyes were.
They were replaced by my father as a method of torture.
He picked a pretty set.
Okay, so that trailer kind of gives you this idea that lots of bad things are going to happen, and there's going to be a lot of weight in this movie. And a lot of people are saying, oh my God, this is the biggest movie, you know, since Endgame kind of deal. And it is a big film, I mean, in the sense that it's a lot more well done than some of their previous releases. You're going to see a lot better effects in this. You're going to see a lot better acting in this. I mean, some of the recent releases they've had have just been god-awful. At least you know here you are getting the classic team that you like back. This movie starts out and basically, you know, they're doing their thing. And, you know, they got some new buddies along the way. Obviously, you see Kraglin and stuff is joining the team now, and he's got his little whistle mohawk and all that shit. But basically, some shit goes down, and you see the High Evolutionary. He's trying to get Raccoon back because this was one of his early creations that was fairly successful in certain aspects, and he wants to do further experiments. And so he sends Adam Warlock to go and retrieve him, basically. And it doesn't work out, but, you know, Raccoon gets horribly injured, and they find out he's going to have like a moment where he dies because there's a kill switch inside of him. So they're like, we got to do this big heist, and we got to figure out how to get the whatever we need to fix him. So that's the movie, basically, you know. They have that issue, they have that Adam Warlock issue, they have the High Evolutionary issue, and then during that whole time you get to hear Raccoon's origin story, which I can't stand that they constantly just switch everything up in every single movie and nothing follows any true origin of any kind. I mean, like, no offense, but like in the first movie, they tell you what Rocket's origin is, and in this movie, they throw that out. Because in the first movie, right away, they show you origin, half-world. Then you see in the original comics, boom, half-world references everywhere. And wow, those characters look familiar because they're in this movie, but they are not those characters that they grew up together on this, half-world. They are prisoners and creations of the High Evolutionary, which is, I like to call the Purple Man, which, there's the robot guy that the High Evolutionary that you remember from the comics. This is the goofball you get on the right here. And same goes to, Adam Warlock. You see him in the trailer. I mean, everybody knows what he was supposed to look like, and everybody knows we missed out on a lot of key things in Infinity War and Endgame that, we thought were pretty important to the story that clearly you didn't get to see. So he's kind of a muddled, diluted version of a character. And you see a little bit of a downgrade as well in the appearance of some of the previous characters. I mean, just from the first movie to now, look at, Drax and look at Nebula. I mean, like, what in the hell is this? It's rough. I can't, I just, what are they doing? Like, do they really expect people with how many failures they've had to come out in the past, year or so that we're going to go and we're going to see this, like, in droves? When you see that, you're like, I don't know, man. Like, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It's cheap. It's cheap, too, on top of it, because you see how awesome these characters looked in the beginning, and now you see what you get at this point in this far into the MCU. Now, the story has a lot of really emotional notes, for sure. The jokes are great. There's a lot of jokes that hit really well. The issue with Peter Quill being sad of losing Gamora and trying to get her back when they rediscover her again. And this whole situation is, funny, and some of it's a little bit of wasted extra, just nonsense, but some of it's pretty good. Otherwise, like, everything is very jarring, especially if you're somebody who's familiar with the story, to be able to sit here and watch this stuff happen and be like, okay, that's not the story, but all right, like, sad, sappy kind of nonsense. A lot of stuff, and I don't want to go too far without, going into a spoilers thing, but there are some complaints that I have that are very key to the main, spoiler avenue aspect of this review. So I'm not going to say too much on that, but I will say that, there's a lot of good action in this. The effects, like I said before in the trailer, are really good, way better than what you were seeing on Disney Plus, the streaming service shows, and some of the past movies. I mean, they obviously really at least kept with a decent standard, for the Guardians movies. Which you wonder why they wouldn't do that on any other films, but let's not get into that, right? Overall, I would give this movie, this is like a 6 out of 10. It's okay. It's funny. Like, you could watch the movie. It's decent, but it's just, there's no weight to this movie. And I'll get more into that in the spoilers so you can understand what I'm talking about. But there is no weight in this film. Like, there is nothing to really take seriously in this film. Although there's a lot of sad notes in this film. It's just, and obviously I'm going to elaborate a little bit more in a second. But yeah, it's not very good in that sense. And a lot of the stuff doesn't match anything in any aspect of what you read in the comics. And it really kind of dilutes and takes away from some of the greatness of some of these characters and some of these moments. With that being said, why don't we just get right into the spoiler section and talk a little bit about this? Spoilers. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so, at the end, you find out that basically Peter and Gamora are going to part ways and just whatever. Drax is going to just go off and take care of these little fucking people in this world that, the High Evolutionary created. Mantis is going to go out and find herself with these giant monsters. It's like the stuff that's happening is ridiculous. And then the new Guardians team is just not a very attractive and enjoyable team that you think, or at least I would think, that anybody would like to watch for another film if they do one. Especially without James Gunn on top of it. It's just whatever, right? Like, what other garbage could they throw our way? What they did with Adam Warlock was so diluted and so awful. He just was treated like a useless baby. They made a mockery of him. They made a mockery of the High Evolutionary, although he is a decent villain and he could have had a lot more potential. I think even more. A lot of people would also say probably than Kang, but whatever. I also really don't like that there is no weight to this film. Like I was saying, nobody dies. You know, there's nothing serious that really happens that drastically changes anything besides the fact that, you know, obviously this is the last ride and they told you that. So they could have probably told you that at the end when Thor went with the Guardians and parted ways. At that point, they could have at that point disbanded and nobody would have cared. Whatever, because there's nothing really important that happened there except for they made their opportunity to add a couple new Guardians and get rid of a few because they wanted to eventually maybe have some stuff with some Guardians and, you know, that whole deal. And Peter Quill, you know, he's still around. They say he'll come back. He goes to see his grandfather back on Earth. Yeah, but I just didn't think that that's very enjoyable. I mean, it's a fun movie. You could put it on in the background. You could joke around, watch it, just like the rest of their films. They're not taken too seriously in the story. They're kind of like half jokey films, like gimmicky films, but they're good. This one is even lesser, obviously, of the three. The first one, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people really had a problem with the ending and the way they did that. But overall, I liked the way they set up everything in the first one. The second one was all right. And then this one is just like, meh. Very much so. And again, that's a 6 out of 10. You know, if you're a hardcore comic fan or just somebody who's familiar with these characters, and yeah, then probably avoid this one. But if you're somebody who's just been pretty much a diehard with the MCU and stuff, you'll like this one better than all of the previous ones in this phase. You know? So, yeah, 6 out of 10. Zookatube out.
Charged on my feet, I'm like a factory. Dropping lines like an assembly. I'm staying on point, it's my strategy. Feel like they tracking me. Yo, let me get on one. Nah, go get your tracks up. Homie, can I steal some? Homie, you can't stack up. My brother, can you shout me? You're barking up the wrong tree. My dog, why do you doubt me? Cause you can't do shit without me.
Real like the radio and never play it, but that's cool. The enemy's supposed to hate it.